What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Great Day podcast. I'm here with the one and only Laurie from Emunah. Laurie, how are you doing, Laurie? How are you doing today?
Good.
Thanks for hosting us today. We're here at the WeWork office. You guys have, of course, have branches around the world. I'm glad to be able to catch you here at this moment because, for all we know, WeWork may not be around.
That's a good point.
This time next year.
Chas v'shalom, because then we don't have an office.
You got to pivot and move and shake, and which I think you've been doing that for a lot in your life, haven't you? I mean, you're the last person I would think who's stayed in course and just like followed.
Change is my drug of choice. Yeah, sure.
That and coffee.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that being said, I mean, change is. I mean, the only thing in life that's constant is change, as some great poet said. But bring us. So let us know. I mean, what I find fascinating about Emunah, and just to give the listener some history, we connected about maybe 2 years ago now.
Actually, I connected with you earlier. You don't
Really?
remember? Yeah. When I was working at OHEL, you were one of my ropes guys.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You came out, and I didn't even know how big you were.
Well, back then, that was so low key. That's true. That's right. That's why I had long hair back in the day.
You did.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like on the edge. It was like a fundraiser. A lot of fun.
You volunteered, and you were one of the guys that really helped us out that day.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, I'm glad I left such an impression. Back in the day, I think what also impressed you is that I did it volunteer. I didn't like charge back then, It was like, this is pre-Mary Kay, Yeah, I'll come for the cause,
That's right.
A year later, what was that amount? No, listen, that was a lot of fun. We came out, we supported OHEL, right? People were facing their fears going over what was it, 50 stories? Yeah, that was a lot of rappelling down a 50-story building. A lot of fun.
It was about 37 stories.
37 stories. Okay.
It was good.
Yeah, it was fun. You ended up doing it yourself?
Of course.
Yeah, nice.
I did it for Emunah too. We did it here as well.
Oh, cool. Off this building that we're in?
No, you can't do it in Manhattan. There's a Spider-Man law.
Oh.
You're not allowed to rappel off any buildings.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Until today. No.
I actually tried to get it in the Marriott Hotel.
Yeah.
Because... have you been in the Marriott Hotel?
Like the one in Times Square?
Manhattan, Times Square, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's hollow. So I went to the manager and I sat with him and I said, can we do it inside here? So I thought, I'm so clever. I'm, schmadraing around the law. Yeah. It's inside a building. The guy looked at me and said, what are you, crazy? You know how many people have committed suicide? We have 11 suicides here. God. So they had to put up like these wrought iron things. He goes, I got lawsuits up my wazoo. No rappelling. I was like, oh,
okay. Wow. But that's, sad to hear, but also like just shows a testament to your creative genius of like how you're always looking for new ways to like figure out how to maneuver and make things happen. That's amazing. Well, rumor has it, it's more than a rumor, facts, numbers can be proven that ever since you joined Emunah, which I'd love to hear more, more about the organization, you've really changed it. You brought up like sort of like this dying organization to life. You brought it to life. What, how do you do that? How did you go about coming to an organization and bring more life to it?
Well, Emunah's actually part of my personal story as well as my professional story.
Oh.
So.
Okay, let's go there. Let's get personal. Let's do it, Laurie. Let's go. You brought it up. Tell me everything.
So I am a galas, and when I actually converted, I was 20 years old.
Incredible. So, okay, yeah. 20 years old, your background's Catholic, Christian,
Catholic.
Buddha? Okay, Catholic.
Not a Buddhist. My family's Catholic.
Family's Catholic. And you're the only one in your family that has converted?
Yes, because my family has been with me through this journey, and when they spend Shabbos with me or any other holidays, they're like, this is mental. Wow. I would never do this. Too much work. Wow. As my father says, he's happy as a goy because he said, if I had to go to synagogue this much, I don't even know what I would do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So take me down that road. That's insane. You're 20 years old. What led you to this point, this pivotal point in your life? You're like, you know what? I want to search for God or different, or build a
I've always been religious. As a child, my parents are not religious at all. They sent me to a very religious Catholic school. And I was actually a very quiet kid. I know it's surprising, but yes, in grade school, high school, I was pretty quiet. But
you went to like a school, knee highs, the whole little like
the whole Catholic girl outfit, and
trigger.
So when we went, we'd have to go to confession once a week. Yeah. So there was a priest in grade school that was very influential in my journey. It's allegedly that, racial profiling, that I don't look typically Jewish. I look like a shiksa. I've had people say that to me.
On that note, is shiksa, do you find it derogatory?
Depends how you say it.
I guess if you say it, it's fine, right?
Well, like I always say, like when people talk about my family, I say I want to make it clear they're goyim, they're not shkutzim. Like, there is a difference. So,
what was the hardest? Okay, that's amazing. All right.
So this was a priest, he
shout out to the priest.
He
What's
looked
his name?
very. I don't want to say his name because he has his own journey. Right. Anyway,
is he Jewish too now?
Yes, Baruch Hashem.
What?
Yeah. So
Whoa.
this is the story. He looked typically Jewish, curly hair, little glasses, the whole thing. Anyway, he was a priest. His parents were Holocaust survivors. They converted after the war, and they became Catholics. He became a priest. So when I would go into confession, because I'm all about the source, I want to know where did it start? Give me the facts. And every time I'd ask a Shaila in confession, he'd say, you know what, I'm going to go ask my cousin. He's a rabbi. And he, I'll see what he says. And then he'd come back the following week and he would tell me like the source, and then we would chat. So I would be like, I'm in 8th grade and like I'm in confession for like 20 minutes. And that's a long time because most people go in and say, oh, I was mean to my brother and I said a bad word. And then you get 3 Hail Marys and you're out. So I'm in there for 20 minutes and my friends would be like, what did Laurie Ann do? Oh my God.
Right.
Like, what did she do?
I want to hang out with her more.
Mm-hmm. And, anyway, so he started me on the journey of questions.
Actually, like, why are you hanging out in confession for 20 minutes? Like,
because he was talking. We were chatting about sources, and like I used to say, if Jesus was Jewish, then I don't understand. He died a Jew. Why aren't we all Jewish? Huh. In fact, in 8th grade, they would take us to a temple in Toronto, Temple Sinai, for like a Seder. To see how Jesus' Last Supper was. Sure. So it made no sense to me. Yeah. It was just like
why not go to the source of things?
Right. And also, like they always say you have to pray to Jesus. Well, I like to go to the top.
Cut out the middleman.
Yeah, cut out the middleman.
Makes you I don't need a fundraiser as well.
Right. Yeah. He's a distributor. I don't need to.
Sure. Save on costs. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, and then in 8th grade, we had to do like a chesed project to graduate. Okay. So everybody went to this Italian club and seniors home. And I went to the Baycrest Center, which is a Jewish old age home in Toronto. I don't know why. I just went there. Also, as a kid, I always feel like I'm a victim of soul displacement. Like a melech got my soul confused. Okay. Like I was really meant to be Jewish because when my mom was pregnant, they were really young.
Well, they do say that, right? I mean, within Torah, they say like anybody who's converted, their soul was at Har Sinai,
right? So, I think for sure I was like a Polish. I was Polish for sure. I love Yiddish and everything, but. When my mom was young, she was 17 and my dad was 18. They were married and they got married very young. And my mom, the doctor, a Jewish doctor, thought my mom was going to give me up because she was so young. So he said, I have an Orthodox family for you that would take your baby, pay for your fees, and blah, blah, blah. And my mother's like, no, you're not taking my baby. So then I go forward. Around 9 or 10, I got diagnosed with a milk allergy, severe, like anaphylactic, almost died.
Oh, wow. Is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a thing.
A very intense case of like this being lactose intolerant.
Yeah, it's not even. It's a true allergy where my throat closes up and Okay. So I couldn't eat meat and milk anymore. So the doctor had told my mom buy her kosher meat because they put some lactate enzyme or something into treif meat, and I'm very allergic to this enzyme. So my mom, we lived in a Jewish neighborhood, so my mom would go to the kosher butcher store in
Toronto.
Yeah. And it's funny because that butcher store, one of those women that owned it were big Emunah, supporters. They're big machers. So they got to know my mom, obviously, because how many non-Jewish women were walking in with 2 little kids buying kosher meat that didn't need it. Right. So she didn't buy it for everybody because it was expensive. She's like, I'm not going to buy this for everyone. And she always says, thank God she didn't, because people always say, how'd you get an Orthodox? She says, it had to be the kosher meat. She's like, I'm glad we didn't eat it.
It's one thing for one daughter, the rest of the family.
Yeah. It all goes back to the work. They're all like, it's just too much work.
It's just too much work. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. It's wow. Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going.
So anyway, then all these little things, and then I decided when I was a teenager, I started working at they called me at that temple. They needed babysitters on the high holidays. And so it was a Reform temple. So I remember I was there with my girlfriend, and I was 16. I was really sheltered, didn't know anything. And everyone was coming into the nursery to drop off the kids, and they're like, we'll get you when the chauffeur's coming, when the chauffeur's coming. And my girlfriend and I are like, oh my God, Jews really are so rich. They all have chauffeurs. So we were just like, wow, they all have chauffeurs.
For those who don't know, that's so funny. The chauffeur is the ram's horn that that Jews blow on the New Year. Yeah. That's very funny.
Yeah, actually, when I went home and told my mom was like, what is wrong with you? You don't know that's a horn. And like my mom, because, she lived in a Jewish neighborhood with Jewish friends. So she couldn't believe how stupid I was. But I thought it was really like a chauffeur, So I kept going to all these, where else did I go? Oh, I was at Camp Rena. It's a Jewish foundation for individuals with disabilities in Toronto. I was the camper. I was not a camper.
Staff member? Counselor?
Yeah, I was a staff member.
I mean, you're special.
Yeah, I'm special. Anyways. Definitely a special snowflake, as my kids say. But so interesting thing is there was 2 non-Jewish people, me and another boy. They had to have like...
Were you like a Shabbos goy there?
Yeah. Okay. To get the government funding, they had to be inclusive. So I was the token. and David was, and then the camper was a token.
Oh, man.
And so...
The truth comes out.
Yeah. So on Shabbos, I was really getting immersed in it just... I love rituals and everything has meaning. Like I remember as a kid asking my mom, what's a Christmas tree? What's it mean? And my mother's like, I don't know. It's just a tree. We decorate it,
Right. It's like, okay. So you always were just something that you like to just like go a bit deeper, know the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
So you already felt connected with God. Did you feel like your connection with God shifted and changed when you did the conversion? Or do you feel like it's the same God, just your connection?
Same God, just a deeper connection.
You feel it's a deeper connection.
Because I'm connecting with it every day. Like everything I do drink a cup of tea, I make a bracha, you know what I mean? Everything you do is godliness, when you're a Jew. Even your behavior, you're more alert. Even sneas. You wear a short sleeve. In my old world, I never even thought for one moment about being sleeveless or, these aren't, it's just an arm.
Yeah.
But you become more in tune, covering my hair. That was a very big deal.
Yeah, sure.
Even though I don't like to pick and choose my halachas, I try to do the best I can. Sure. But covering my hair for me is that's a difficult one. Yeah. Because I don't feel it's so sneeze. Like, I think to be really sneeze, it would be like a little tichel or a little thing on.
So you're making you look even nicer than what the hair when you look like?
Yeah. It's just, I don't want to look like a Smurf. So I'm working. I can't look like that. So.
Right. Fair enough.
But if I lived in Israel, probably I would do that.
Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like do you have a favorite mitzvah?
Chesed. Like,
Chesed.
Helping, the Klal Yisrael. That's like for me, the biggest joy that I can combine my professional with a passion. I was always thinking about it recently because my kids, I was like, I don't have a passion. And I was like trying to figure out 52, what's my passion?
Yeah,
some people it's sports, it's this. And in the end, my kids were like, Mom, tzedakah, that's your passion. That's what you love to do.
You love to do it.
Because even when I said, this fundraising's so hard, I can't do it. It's like we're all pulling from the same pool. And I'm like, my kids were like, Mom, if you quit being paid to do chesed, you'll just be doing it for free. So you might as well just continue.
That's incredible. And the few times I've seen you in action, your passion and does come forth. And before we go down the Emunah road, I just want to just touch base on some of the things from just the conversion and this whole new way of life and being, which I find so fascinating. So what did that process look like? Also, did you try to go, because you did have some sort of background with Reform Judaism, did you first go down that route? And what made you choose to go down more of an Orthodox path?
So I actually converted conservative first.
Okay.
That was when I was 20. People always say, were you getting married? No, I was not getting married. I was a single woman.
For love,
right. So I was 20 years old and I converted through a conservative shul, an Orthodox rabbi. Back in the day, most of the shuls had like Orthodox rabbis. And so it's like a university course. You go a couple nights a week. The text is correct. It's just the practicality isn't the same. I went to shul. It was funny because in the conservative shul, I was sitting with all the old guys and old ladies all the time because it wasn't really, they go for the high holidays.
Sure, right. Not more daily and weekly.
I actually joined the choir. I have the most horrific voice. I told them I wouldn't sing. My friends were like, "You're the biggest neb," but I had to because I had thought, how am I going to teach my kids these songs? Like, I got to learn these songs.
That's so right.
So
that's
I promised the choir director I wouldn't actually really sing. I will just mouth.
You just wanted to learn
I wanted to learn all the terms. Yeah. I went to Hebrew school 4 days a week.
Wow.
Before I went to work. At that time, I was working at the University of Toronto as a production assistant. Wow. So I would go in the morning. I had a private tutor. And two were at night. I went with my cousin, actually. It was very aggravating because my cousin, they called me Chaya because they said I was full of life. And they called my cousin...
Which is true, which is very spot on.
Sapora Gadol, which was my cousin who's like 5'10". But she was catching on so well. Like, she's linguistically inclined and she's sitting there spewing Hebrew and I'm sitting there like... The good news is I could say Cha.
Yes. I was going to actually say, did you have any issues with any specific Jewish words or Yiddish? No?
No.
You can nail the Cha.
My parents always say, you can name your kids anything, just don't put any like my father says, it sounds like you're throwing up in your throat every time you say that name.
Okay. Can your parents not nail the Cha? It's not a genetic thing?
My mom can't say it.
Your mom can't say it?
No.
Wow. But I'm sure it was very, very super helpful that you had parents and family that were supportive in your decision. Because I know, 100%. From a Jewish perspective, right? Anybody, God forbid, who does convert to any other religion,
you're out.
You're out. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. That and marrying out of the faith. And I also know that from other religions, right? People who, let's say, who are part of the Islam movement or even Christianity, right? It's like you're leaving the family.
I have friends who I went to school with. I remember I met someone. So a couple of years ago, and she's Irish, and this boy that I went to school with,
boyfriend?
Said, no. Yeah. She said, back in the day, grade school, I was Laurie Ann, you want to know what happened to Paul? And I'm like, what happened? He intermarried, and I said, oh, to a Muslim, a Jewish girl? No, a Protestant. So I know Jews think all goyim are the same, but they're not.
Right. Yeah. Right. So so in that arena, like it was, I guess I'm sure it was quite helpful that you were able to lean on that family, and they're still involved in your life till today, which is a blessing, I'm sure.
Right. So after when you do going back to the conservative conversion. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for bringing that back in. Have you done podcast? We're gonna bring it back now to what we're talking about. Very good. That was very helpful. Awesome.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. You're doing my job for me. This is good.
I found out from another rabbi that lived on my street that I had a shaila, and he said, "Don't worry, you're not Jewish." So I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You're not Jewish." I said, "Yes, I am. I converted." He said, "No, you're not.
Wow.
You have to convert Orthodox."
Wait a second. Take me to that moment. Like, you just put all this time, effort, and like willingness to do this. How did that news land on you?
It was like, whew. It was a big shock. I have to tell you, I was shocked. I was keeping kosher as best as I could, living with non-Jewish parents. My mom had a pan for me, and she would make food in there, but my mom knew no halachas or anything, and at that point I was not cooking, and then I moved out on my own, so it was easier to keep kosher. But it was like this whole wow, I have a girlfriend from high school. I ended up leaving the Catholic high school. I went to a public school for my last year of high school, and it was a very Jewish high school. Like 90% of the kids that went to this public high school were Jewish, and the same thing happened to her. Her mother converted Reform. She met a guy in college, was more religious. She was going to become Orthodox, and they told her she wasn't Jewish. It's like this whole what do you mean?
Your whole belief system just gets shattered down.
So he says, "It's not for you." I said, "No, it's for me." So of course,
he's doing the good old push you away from the religion thing, huh?
Push me away.
Good old Rabbi 101.
Right. So and ended up making an appointment with the based in Toronto. And it was not easy.
Which is pretty impressive. Before you move on, and I want to hear more about the specific process, but I know a lot of people who've gone down the Reform conservative path, and then once they hear that Orthodoxy doesn't support it or accept it, they're like, screw this, they throw their hands up, they're burnt out, or they're just stop there. But you were like, no, I want to keep going, I want to do it right.
So the Beis Din finally took me in, and thank God it only took me 5 months, and I wasn't pregnant. So that was a real big, usually they, speed those ones up a little bit. They're not supposed to, but they do sometimes. But so normally it takes a couple of years. It can take years.
Yeah.
I knew girls who were in it for
3 years,
and
4
years.
years. Sure.
So I think the reason it happened, they say with the Orthodox, I had already studied for so long, so I had a lot of the text, but I didn't have the practical. And a perfect example of that practical is when I went to someone's house I was really in the yeshiva crowd. Like, it was really interesting. I don't know why they accepted me in, and they were so great, but they did. And It was like the Aguda, the yeshivish crowd from Ner Israel in Toronto. Anyway, I went to someone's house for Friday night. It was like my first Shabbos, a real Shabbos. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been to a lot of Shabbos, but not with Orthodox people. And I was late, and I couldn't find the numbers on the house. I'm running back and forth. Anyway, I walked in. They had already washed. They weren't talking.
All right.
And they're all going, I'm like, hi, I'm Laurie. I'm so excited. And they're like,
You're like, what's wrong with these Jews?
No, I thought they were deaf. Oh. I thought they were all deaf. I thought they couldn't speak. So I was like, oh my gosh, no one told me they were deaf. And so I was like, okay, how am I going to do with this? And then they finally spoke. I was like, oh, sure.
Oh, okay. Dodge that bullet.
Yeah, but you know, when you're coming from an outsider, right? All these things look so, you know.
So many rituals, so many things. You like, what? Yeah, like something like that. It could be so confusing for you. But
Right.
Wow. Okay.
So then, so it was just So I was living like a Jew. They told me to live like a Jew, but you have
to immerse yourself. You have to break one thing, right?
Machal something every week.
What was did you have a go-to?
Light.
Just turn on the light.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember actually the morning of
I
my
TV
conversion.
Maybe? No? Okay.
No, the light. I remember the morning of my conversion. I love Big Macs. That's my Yetzer Hara. I mean, even when I was pregnant, I asked the Shiloh because, you know, they
a good
say
cheeseburger.
You can have whatever. No, I could never have the cheese because
that's true, right? That goes right.
But it's one of those things. I thought the day before I was going, I thought maybe I should just have one more Big Mac before I go. But I didn't.
Wow, and, Scafio. You held it back.
I held back my Yetzer Hara. But
and once in a while, is that something that comes back? Do you have like, sort of like a dream that you wake up to, like, wow, like walking into like a McDonald's or something, having a Big Mac?
No, it's almost 30 years.
Wow, okay.
So my parents think I'm embellishing the memory. They're like, it's not that good. But my memory, it was. Even the one at McDonald's in Israel doesn't taste the same.
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah, for sure. I can imagine.
But I think the reason the rabbis, it was really, I got lucky when I was converting because, they're sitting there. It's pretty intimidating. There's like 6 or 7 guys.
It's like a congressional hearing, Yeah.
And they put you, I was always on a small chair. I don't know if they did it on purpose. It was a tiny chair.
Interrogation tactics.
Yeah. And,
keep you up late at night, keeping, is it day or night? No one knows.
Right. Okay. And what happened was I was a little bit down because I was like, how am I going to move on with my life? Because I'm 22 at this point.
Yeah.
And Jewish guy's not going to date me, obviously. I'm at least a good boy. So an Orthodox guy. And so I went in and in the Beis Din and I said to them, I said, look, you keep telling me to live as a Jew. I am. Like, when am I going to go to the mikvah? Because you're holding me back. And so one of the rabbis, I had a dream team up there. I had the big hitters, Rabbi Lowy, Rabbi Shochad, Rabbi Ox. Like, these are huge, Rebbeim from Toronto. And they said, one rabbi said, oh, you're very young. Don't worry. And I said, well, how old was your wife and daughters when they got married?
Yeah.
And he said, you're going to the mikvah tomorrow. And that was it. And then the next day I went to the mikvah, and it was a little intimidating, the mikvah part. I don't know if they've modified how they do things, but it's, they're there.
Yeah, I think it's still there. The rabbis are there.
Yeah.
They're there. Yeah, they turn around for like a second or something.
No, they put like a screen, but when you're in it, like I had 6 rabbis there.
Wow.
And you're in the water. Yeah. It's a little uncomfortable. Like, you got these 6 men standing there. And so when I go under, the mikvah lady says, kosher.
Right. Kosher, right.
Yeah. I don't think the whole crew looks, but it was just like, I'm under the water. But it's still...
Rabbi Borns, please turn around, Rabbi.
But the thing is, they ask you questions when you're in the water. So...
underwater?
No.
That
would be tricky.
Sure you want to go?
Yeah. And so they ask you a bunch of questions. And
such as?
Do you believe in the Torah? Blah, 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 blah. Do you believe, The last question they asked me was a little technical one, I have to say, that I was a little bit like, Because it was a whole question about the Erev. And the
Erev, like the Erev for Shabbat? Like
in Toronto.
Oh.
It was an Erev question, and they said, do you hold that there's no Erev in Toronto?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Politics. I thought that was a very political question. That's exactly. Like throwing that one in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So at the time, I'm single. I don't have children. I don't have carriages. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Sure. There's no Erev.
Wow.
But yeah, so that one was a little bit like, so.
Coming out of that water, was that euphoric?
Yeah. It was like, that's my actual birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was born in April. And
that's you consider
22nd of Cheshvan. It was October 30th.
That's your birthday?
Yeah.
Do you get it legally changed?
No.
Could you legally, I don't know how that even works. No.
I don't think you can do that.
I got confused there with name. Yeah, I don't know if you could change your birthday.
No.
I want to be 27. Okay, let's dial that back.
And if I'm 30, I'm looking a little rough for 30. Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah, so
now if someone wants to go and convert, would you tell them to do it?
No way.
No,
the Beis Din used to send people to me all the time to vet some women, young women. I always said to the Beis Din, I said, you don't want them to come join, don't worry about it. Just have them follow a Jewish woman 2 weeks before Pesach. They'll be done. Because actually in 2016, I had a life-threatening event and I was hospitalized, and my sisters came to help me kosher for Pesach. And they were and my daughter, they were completely traumatized because my daughter had never done it either. And they were like, this is insane what you have to do. Like, they couldn't believe it. And but that's the kind of family I have,
Right.
They think it's crazy, but they're supportive. And there's my non-Jewish family scrubbing, cleaning, pulling things. And they flew in from Toronto to do it for me. One day they did it. Yeah.
Wow.
So
do you get bothered by when you see Jews, Orthodox Jews, like not keeping to the laws or not keeping to like halacha, and like say like what's going on here? Because I think when it comes to like someone with conversion, they have to keep everything, right? There's no like halfway doing it. You got to do it all. Where if you're born Jewish, you don't have to keep anything and you're still considered Jewish.
Yeah, but to 120, you're still going to be judged just like me. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'll be more favorable because God loves a convert.
Hey, oh, wow, we're using the convert card.
Oh, I do.
When does it come in handy?
At my last job, they told me they wanted me to find some pasuk that would make sense with a donor for a gift or something. And I'm like, I don't know if you know, I don't have any, Jewish education when it comes to, I know halachas, sure. And of course I'm well-read, but I'm actually trying to learn like Nach Yomi right now, and I'm sitting there going, huh? Because there's certain things that, they talk about that probably you learned in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which I didn't, because it's deeper, right?
Totally.
But so it's like, if people are being a little judgy on me, I'm like, I'm a convert.
Guilt them. Well, they'll definitely nail the guilt card. So definitely in that regard.
I've learned that well, and between the Catholic guilt and Jewish guilt, I've got it all covered.
Did you find it hard to date being a convert?
No. It's one of those things that I was young, so I was 25 when I got married. I think it was harder for my children. That always
like bullying,
pains
being picked
me.
on, like people.
Yeah, like in school, it really bothers me. That's what bothers me. I own my conversion. I'm out because I know a lot of closeted converts, and I don't blame them.
What's that mean, closeted converts? Like they don't share that they're converted at all?
They will not tell anybody.
Really?
It's like,
even today?
Yeah, I know quite a few women. They will not say a word. They don't tell anybody about it because people are, unfortunately, the Jews it's an exclusive club, and as much as we love the convert, don't really want them in our family. Marry our children. It's a reality. But there's a lot of people out there, and even when I got remarried. Unfortunately I got divorced, and I didn't know if I would be able to get remarried again.
I say,
Yeah. And, and thank God I was able to find someone who looked at it as something really incredible as opposed to as a deficit. Because, it does come with a pechalach, you know what I mean? Sure. I got a whole crew.
Yeah. Right. You got, but then again, don't we all have our own baggages, right? And we all have
but I'm very involved with my family. So you had to be able to handle that.
Right.
You know,
cousins or holidays.
Yeah, but my kids got a lot of, particularly my son. You know, your mom's a Jesus lover.
Wow.
You know,
it's so rough, right? I mean, kids could be so like when growing up, right? We just like figuring out ourselves, and it's just hard. Like people just like latch on to like these.
Yeah, your mom's a shiksa. You know, he would get that a lot. So I remember the principal called me and he said, like, what do you want me to do? He goes, I'll suspend them. I'm like, how about you just teach about who the important converts are through history and how they've affected the Torah, and you know, why don't we
That's educate a very proactive them? And healthy approach.
Send them home to watch TV. That's not going to help. So that, you know, even with my daughter with shidduchim, you know.
Was that something that came up?
Oh yeah, for sure. And my ex-husband's not on the derech, so it's like it's tough. Right. So. You know, these are all the things. So, I mean, it's challenges even for Baal Teshuvas, you know.
For sure, I mean?
Right. We all have our.
Everybody has their
challenges.
Their thing.
I will tell you the one thing that bothers me the most is when I became a convert, I thought that the Jews were with one big happy family. They all loved each other, and I've found out. No, not so much. Like that disheartens me more than anti-Semitism. I hate it when I hear Jew bashing. I hate when I hear an Ashkenaz talk about a Sephardim or you know, a right wing talk about somebody who's Reform. It's horrible.
When it's within the tribe, within the community, that it is quite sad. But there's also, I mean, on the opposite side, there is also there is a lot of, you know, a love and care, but when you especially from the outside, when you assume one thing like, oh, it's all one big family, but you get into this
well, I'm specifics. In the family now,
right?
And that's
you hear
the family.
That's banter and the and the inner dialogues that take place.
Well, that's the dirty laundry, right? Because I was at that march last Sunday. Yeah, that's the beauty.
Last Sunday, right? We're talking about the solidarity march that took place in New York, in stand of all the anti-Semitic attacks that have been taking place over these few months in New York City and throughout the states, throughout the world, really.
So that 25,000 people was something beautiful to see.
That was special, yeah. Every background, no matter where, what, how, everybody showed up. That was really special. And that was actually, that Emunah was part of one of the organizers for that event, which was really special. So bring me over to the this bridge between, you said, because it was personal and also professional. How so I know earlier on you mentioned that some of the Emunah leaders in Toronto, that the meat, the supermarket that you would buy from were part of Emunah.
Right.
Was that the connection?
No, I didn't know till after when I joined Emunah. So what happened was I got married, I was 25 years old. I had a lot of Jewish friends, but they weren't from. I needed to find a community of people of like-mindedness. So and the people that I had met at the Aguda, because I started at the Aguda, they were probably about 12 years older than me. So they were further ahead. And they were amazing, but, you know, they had 4 or 5 kids already. Sure, yeah. So I was looking for young women. And so someone had told me about a Emunah meeting. So I went to an Emunah meeting, and it was like, it just clicked with me. Because even though I tended to be more right, I didn't realize, because my kids were more right-wing school, until I got into that school, I didn't even realize how pro-Israel I was and how it was so important. Like, they didn't celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut.
They didn't.
And that, by the word, that word took me about 17 years to learn how to say it.
Well, you rattle off like a pro.
I was a little nervous there. I had a little stage fright. My kids would be like howling. They would make fun of me all day long. Mom, what's that holiday?
Say it again. Say it. Yom Ha'atzmaut. Wow. So, I mean, did you ever actually think about making Aliyah, living in Israel? Was that everything across your mind?
Yeah, but I have to say, moving to New York was traumatic enough. I mean, I'm Canadian. Yes. We generally live and stay where we are. And I had a great crew of friends. And so the thought of being, you know, I was a stranger in a community and then to start again in another community, at least in Israel, I'm one of many, like, you know, there's a lot of people. But totally. Nah, not with my kids and everything at this time. But so Emunah was amazing. It was amazing. And
so what drew you in? Like, I mean, what drew you in to I mean, there are so many incredible organizations. I mean, Chesed, of course, you're passionate about, but why Emunah? What's about Emunah that talked to you like, you know what? I want to dedicate my time and my life to this.
Because they do amazing work. You know, we have 5 homes in Israel. And
when you joined Emunah, did they have 5 homes at that time? Yeah.
At that time, though, the way the affiliates, Emunah is an international organization. So each country raises money for Emunah and sends it to support the projects. So I was with Canada, and at that time, we took care of Neve Michael, which is an amazing home, has 2 crisis centers.
When we talk about a home, we're talking about an orphanage. We're talking about a
well,
home
no, not all of them are orphans. Some of them are, children that have been removed for like unthinkable trauma. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I've always had a hard time getting my head around. Even now, when I go, every time it never gets old. I can't get over that Jews are behaving so badly, Yeah. I mean, they're human beings.
Human beings, exactly.
And it's really an unrealistic thing. I mean, Israel's a real country. But when you hear the horror, I just, because I came into this, I always think that Jews are on a higher level. Like when I see an Orthodox person committing
you hold them to a higher standard.
Yes, I get so upset. Right. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, you're an Orthodox Jew. You should know better. I know it's a little naive, but
yes, right. Because ultimately, I mean, it's true. I mean, there is a certain higher standard and way of living life, and hopefully we will be able to have that integrity to follow through. But yeah, and then also ultimately, it's like, and which is hard, right? From the outside, people could sort of subjugate and put everybody in that one pool, like, oh, if these are all bad people. It's like, no, ultimately, you have to look at it as the individual, like he's a human being, and what kind of atrocities or what kind of harm and tragedy took place in his life or her life that sort of like they didn't stop that cycle and they passed it on to their children. So it's very sad. And I think it's a point to be made that not to put everybody into one pool, like, these are all bad people or whatever. But and it's hard to see within your own community, within your own people, that such things could take place and happen.
Because overall, we know Jews do incredible work and have given incredible things to this world, and the contributions are too large to mention. But
But again, here's a Jewish organization like in Emunah that's stepping in and helping those children who are coming from these battered homes and these abusive homes to give them a home. And I actually saw firsthand by the latest dinner that you had. I forgot her name, but it was beautiful to see. I think she's from Ethiopian descent, and she grew up in Israel.
Sarah.
And she grew up,
or something.
and she
Sarah
came.
Segu, yeah.
Yeah, and she spoke so beautifully, and there she was. She came from a home that was quite abusive. Emunah brought her in, and just fast forward, and you guys welcomed on her husband, and then you welcomed on her son, and then she was pregnant with her second child, which was beautiful. What she expressed that would never have happened, right, without being saved by and being welcomed into the Emunah family.
So I spent my days, because at that time I was a stay-at-home mom, and there was a whole crew of women with us. And what's great is I met my best friend, one of my best friends from Emunah, Ariella Weiss, who's the chairman of the board of Canada. So even when this job came up, she was like, you have to take the job. We owe it to Emunah. She always says, we owe our friendship to Emunah. Oh. And
you came in as an entry level, just working on
we were just volunteers.
But
we were just more than volunteers, because we have this crew that, one person, this woman, Sarah Racklin, she still is the treasurer. She's doing the job of a full-time bookkeeper, but as a volunteer. We went through the ranks, and then before I left, I was chairman of the board for Canada. And so when the job came up, it was a perfect shidduch, because I didn't even have to learn the product. You know what I mean? I knew what the chesed was. I've been living it, working my kishkas out for years. We dropped the kids off a carpool, and then we would. And I will say, Emunah also afforded me the opportunity to keep my skills current.
Which are?
My communication skills, my fundraising skills, because I wanted to, make sure that I could one day go back to work.
Yeah,
and
totally. So you're keeping them sharp, and a great leader and fundraiser you are. I mean, you definitely, definitely expanded the organization to tremendous new heights. So that's
our president Johanna Gutman-Herskowitz has a really good line. I love it. She said at the dinner, "Emunah is your grandmother's organization. It was your mother's organization. Now it's our organization," and even the generation under me. It's a great chesed. It's one of the first ones, because it's from Hapal Mizrahi. Yeah. These are the ladies that fundraise for all the money to start the state of Israel.
And I think it's really cool to mention that the organization is pretty much ran. It's not pretty much. It's ran by an all woman crew. It's an all woman leadership, and that are leading this.
It's pretty. It's pretty woman centric. Of course, we like our men. And we're not
in doses.
We're not exclusive.
Well, the past since the organization has been started, it's only the leaders, the CEOs have only been women, right?
Yeah.
Is that intentional?
Yes, I think I mean, there has been discussions about having men in those roles, but I always tell them that if you're going to have a man in these roles, our meetings are going to have to change.
How so, and why is that?
Well, I've been on some boards in my past that are male centric. I was the only woman on a board, and men and women are different, and how they deal with things. Women are much more chatty. We like to discuss a little more, and men are just like, boom, let's get it done. We need this. Okay, let's get it done. Let's get it done. And then they get up and go, okay, let's go out,
and get it done.
And get it done, right. Women tend to we're more engaging. We're, that's one thing I will say the difference is when you're fundraising is women are collaborators, natural collaborators. And so, Amit now has added men to their board. And this was talk about also here to add men, but I think it would be sad because there's not many chassids for Orthodox women to have a voice, to have leadership roles, and to be able to really steer the ship and make impactful decisions that will impact the lives of people on the other side. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to have this female voice. But of course, we have men in our office that work for us, and the CEO in Israel, he's also male, and so obviously we have a lot of partners.
Okay.
But I think for the affiliates, generally, it's going to stick to being female, and I think girl power is important.
Cool. Okay. Great. I mean, I definitely hear that. I mean, it's in the age of which now it's about just like sharing roles and like opening up what used to be just maybe all male leadership and vice versa. I mean, I think it's.
But we do have men. We have young leaders on our board, men, on our board. Yeah. So,
Michael
Reidler, yes. We got
one of many, I'm sure.
Kol Hanarim, I'll give him a shout out. Kol
Hanarim, yeah.
He's our partner, and he staffs our summer programs and raises significant funds for Emunah. So, yay, Michael! Thank you.
It was also really impressive to see is how how Emunah empowers the youth and the young adults to like really step it up and take strong leadership roles in the organization. Because I mean, I think you understand that is the future, right? I mean, you could have the donors and people like filling up, helping up fund and raise money to make the programs happen, but it really takes the feet on the ground. So it's really cool that you really show a lot of respect and give them space to run with it. Do you think though that Emunah will branch out? I know a lot of work is in Israel to like helping families out here in the States or other countries.
Well, our 501c3 is for, our activities in Israel. We do projects here that we try to create partnerships. So we're always looking for opportunities to, co-brand with someone, or not just brand, but, to do a joint project with them. Mm-hmm. So if we have those opportunities, we will. But generally, all our fundraising efforts are for Israel, like to get that money to Israel. And do we want to have more activities here? Yes. So how we do that is like we have a bar bat mitzvah program where we encourage, young kids. Like we're in Connecticut now. We're going to areas that are not necessarily Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, Egalitarian, and, trying to assist in having meaningful bar bat mitzvahs. So they'll do a chesed project here, which engages community and family here, and then they raise some monies, and then they go to Israel and they have a simcha with our kids there.
Yeah, in the home. Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And it's it really gives you also these kids, like our kids here are pretty privileged,
compared to the children that are in these homes, absolutely. Sure. Years, yeah.
And it's like a little bit of an aha moment for these kids, to meet other children who may not. We just got I got an email today about a little girl. She couldn't believe that little girl is 12. She didn't have a phone. Like she wanted to text with her. So she was like, she didn't have a phone.
Yeah. Mom, let's make everybody have a phone. You get a phone and you get a phone.
Right.
Would you be able to share with us an Emunah success story?
We have so many. But just one, there's this little boy named David. He's still a work in progress. but I'm really anxious to see how this ends. And so this was a little kid. His father murdered his mom in front of him and his brother.
Oh, my.
And the man was put into jail. Mother obviously died. And anyway, he ended up in an Emunah home, and he was doing quite well. 2 years later, his brother, who was 18 at the time when the murder happened, was too old. He made a decision not to go into a home, and he actually killed himself.
Oh.
So this little David, who was doing so well, 2 years later, he's sitting Shiva again in our home. Prior to that, actually, I forgot one piece. He thought his father would get a furlough to get out to go to his bar mitzvah. His father committed suicide.
Oh, my God.
So this little guy has had nothing but loss. And I just actually recently asked about him again. He's now, I think he's about 17 now, and he's doing really, really well. I mean, he's had intense therapy, a lot of therapy, but he has a really good crew. He's in the Afula home who, it's family, and they're really, making sure that this kid, all efforts are being put into this one child to make sure he's successful.
Wow, I can't even imagine what kind of rehabilitation that a child needs, trust and like family and direction, and I mean all that. So I mean that's the kind of stuff that you support. I mean you have family, you're supporting with therapy.
Therapy's the key to any of these kids. Like we need a lot of things, but if they don't have the therapy, then that's really the biggest piece. They're not going to be functioning adults, and they'll probably repeat the cycle a lot of times. Totally. So we raise a lot of money for, like, the government I think gives an hour a week.
Which is not nearly enough, yeah.
Right. So we raise monies to ensure that they have more. I mean, we have different types of therapies too. Like a lot of times the boys are not as open as the girls. Mm-hmm. And so we have different methods. Like they have now a new one called bike therapy. So they take the kids bike riding, and the boy and the therapist will go, and they find that it's been really great at getting them to speak in a non-threatening environment. It's out private,
exercise.
No one's there. They feel safer, and so that's proving to be successful. We have clown therapy, animal therapy. Yeah. So there's all different ways to, art therapy to get these kids to talk.
Wow, that's amazing.
You're constantly there's always challenges, but it's one of those things. Maybe Emunah works for me because I do have tremendous Emunah, like as cliche as it sounds.
Yeah.
And when I got married, having children, all these things, I read about them, but I never actually participated in them. Like the bris, when my son had a bris, it was a Shabbos bris. So my family, I remember asking me, okay, so what's going to happen? Like I like to always give them the heads up. And
sure, right.
What to expect when you're at a bris. And my father's very, very, he hates blood. He gets nauseous. He faints. Anyway, so I told them, we're going to have the circumcision. And my mom's like, we're going to do it right there. I said, yeah, we're doing it right there. So she's like, and then what? And then we're going to have lunch. So she says, let me get this straight. You're going to hack the end of my grandson's penis off, and then we're going to eat bagels? And I was like, yeah, pretty much. So, yeah.
Just sum it up nice, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just, and my dad, he was so close. He saw what was happening, and he got so woozy.
Amateur mistake. Never look.
He didn't know it was actually going to happen right there, and he ran out of the shul because he couldn't breathe. And he had his kippah on his head, and he was standing outside an Orthodox shul with his kippah on his head, having a cigarette. He smoked at that time. And he said, an old man was shuffling by and said, "What are you doing? It's Shabbos. Don't be like a guy." And my dad was like, "I am a guy." And he's like, "No, you're not. Don't talk crazy." And my dad's like,
"No, literally.
I can prove it.
I'm literally not Jewish."
Yeah.
No, wherever you go, you can always come back home. And don't worry.
Yeah. So it's all these things, my family, my mom came back from that bris. She says, "Why were all the Jews spitting on my grandson?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Every 5 minutes. Oh, he's so good looking." I said, "Oh, yeah."
Ayin hara.
Ayin haras. Yeah. So it's all these things, even by the bar mitzvah, my son's bar mitzvah, I forgot to tell him about the candy. So they were handing out the candies, and there's a whole pew of my family, the men, my dad, his brother, my brother, my cousins, and they're all sitting there, and they got their little pechalaks, and my uncle goes, "Oh, this is such a good idea. They hand out snacks during prayer. They should do this at church. So they start eating their snacks, and then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, they're getting whacked in the head.
Oh, that's
and my
funny.
dad's like, wow, way to tell the guys that, we got to throw the candies. He goes, we're eating them. Like that kind of thing. Like my dad's very funny. Like he's like, can you not buy the teepee keepas? Like he goes,
he knows the styles.
He goes, that's an alert. He's like, why don't you just put it on my head?
Yeah, let him know. This guy.
Intruder.
Warning.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Overall, when people say, would you tell someone to convert? You have to have thick skin, because there's always going to be someone telling you, you're once a shiksa, always a shiksa. The only true Jew is one with a blood transfusion.
Oof.
It's harsh.
Yeah, it could be harsh. Yeah, people can be mean.
Yeah,
but I guess it's not to put words in your mouth, but like it definitely sounds like you've gone through a lot, and if you're dedicated to this, to this way of life, you're gonna keep going. No one's gonna really turn you off from your direction of where you want to go. And
my rabbi once said to me, because when I went through a rough patch, when I was getting divorced, he said to me, just remember, you're not upset with Judaism, you're upset with Jews. And it was a really powerful thing for me, because I do notice sometimes when I've heard people who get divorced or something, and they go off the derech because they're disappointed, and it's not really like, you have to put in perspective. It's a situation. You have a journey. Hashem puts you in a place where you are supposed to be, and you have to have emunah and betachon that this is where you got to go, and know that there's something better coming along. And so that for me was like a really powerful. It was simple. But it was true. It had everything I was going through had nothing to do with my faith in God. It was like, why? Why is this happening to me? I work so hard, every day. So for me, it's just I couldn't even imagine being anything else.
Wow. So what are some ways you strengthen your emunah? What are some tips that you have, or ways that you practice emunah?
I talk to God a lot, like a crazy person.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I have little conversations in the car, and I just, it does, God knows I'm a work in progress, and I always know I can always do better. I can, I think everybody can. And so for me, it's, choosing to see the beauty as opposed to the negativity, keeping all that noise out of my head, and just really knowing that I'm part of something incredible. Like overall, this is a really weird thing to say, but when I go into a room, and I think all Jews do this, we go in and we look for the Jews. When you go somewhere, you're like, okay, where's the Jews, right?
Looking for your kind,
Yeah. And I'm always so, like, when I'm in a room with you, sometimes I'm awestruck, like, wow, like Pesach time is always a hard time for me. But my friends who are Bal Tshuva say the same thing. But I'm a little bit envious, and I'm not a jealous person, but, when you hear all the moms and daughters and talking about, okay, we're doing this for Pesach and this, I don't have that, I tried to be inclusive with my family for holidays, and they came to a Pesach Seder and they said, we're good. You don't have to be so inclusive. That was like the dinner.
This was good for this year. Just forget our address for next year. Like
my mom was like, my God, I should have packed a lunch. What do you mean there's nothing to eat while we read a story, And
it's supposed to be, immersive, feel the pain, the tears.
Yeah, well, they didn't kind of cop it. So they were like, we can be left out. Invite us for the fun ones. Sukkot, Hanukkah.
I was going to ask if they have a favorite,
Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow, very cool. Well, that's amazing, Laurie. Thank you so much for really sharing your your story and your passion for emunah and expressing your emunah. I'm walking away inspired by it, and I know hopefully those who are listening will connect to it and be inspired as well.
All right.
Thank you very much. How can people hear more about emunah, and where can they find that?
Emunah.org, and you can find out all the amazing things that we're doing. And as you mentioned earlier, we are evolving. We're looking for, to invigorate. We're looking for volunteers. Always looking for donors.
There you go.
I have no shame, but I'm asking for the children in Israel. Yes. You know, I'm not asking for myself. And, yeah.
Amazing.
All right.
Thank you very, very much. Incredible.
Thanks so much.